So here it is. David loves this man. God gives David an anointing. I ask God why he do that. Why he give you the anointing of an office before you give you the office? Because you got to develop character to understand God's system. Usually he takes you through a wilderness to humble you. God's big thing with us is humility. It's about getting us to submit and getting that rebellion out of us and getting all these arguments and contentions out of us while we don't need to. See that? I've noticed the only people God promote, God never said he will promote anointed people, gifted people. He says he exalts the humble. He gives honor to the humble. In his kingdom, that's the way he do it. He honors the humble. So even though he gave David an anointing, prophesied to him about his future, he says you still got to go through a level of humility to get there. No one is exempt, even if they get a prophecy of greatness. You still got to go through the process. God do not change certain systems. You have to do it. Every man, every woman who's ever dealt with God had to do it. You must walk humbly with God. If you don't do that, it's no use of even talking to you about nothing like this. God is about to raise up men and women on the earth with great power and great authority. These people will go and sweep across this world with great power. They're about to demonstrate power and authority that has not been demonstrated since the beginning of time. These people have to understand things like what I'm about to tell you tonight. Without that, these are the things the Lord told me in heaven. He's going to raise up multiple men and women who will sweep across this world with unprecedented power. I mean, just unreal. Some of the things I've seen, I'm telling you, it's totally catastrophic. A lot of the things I've seen God do with me, I honestly, I can't believe he's done that with me already. I can't believe that because I know me, see. I know David. I know that I didn't do that. But it was unspeakable. Unspeakable things. And so what I'm saying to you is God is about to raise up. He wants to be able to trust his people. But you got to understand his system. So here it is. David. I love David because not because we just have the same name, of course. I know most of y'all probably thinking that. There may be a little of that in there. I don't know. but I loved him because I love the way how he dealt with things. I love it. I love it because he could submit to a wicked king. He could honor and reverence who this man was. And knowing the Spirit of God had departed, knowing God had rejected him, how many of us would have thought we are justified for rejecting that person too, just because God had? He never took up God's offense with Saul, ever, which caused him to keep a pure spirit. We think because God takes offense with somebody that we have the right to, which corrupts us. Because you don't have the level of character that God have to stay balanced and love people and do that. So it's off limits for us. It's off limits. Here it is. He loves him and shows him he loves him and shows him that he's a son even still. He calls him father and he does nothing against him. He's running and he's running and he's running and he's running. And he's running, and he's running. Not because he didn't have the military strength to rise up an army, because he had mighty men in the hold with him. He could have took the kingdom by force. He ran. You know why? Because he knew that, watch this, even though God's Spirit was not upon Saul, if he would have done that, Saul was still in a system. He was in an eternal system. That's what it means. Thou shalt not touch the Lord's anointed. He knew Saul wasn't anointed anymore. The Spirit had departed, but he's talking about the anointing of being in an office, a system, a governmental system, that he knew that if he fought that, he would be fighting God. And the Lord said this to me one day. The Lord said this to me one day. He said, David, do you want to know why David was running from Saul? He didn't have to run. He was running. He says he wasn't really running from him. He was running from me. If a wicked king who's in a godly position pursues you, watch this, they are no longer pursuing you themselves. That office is behind them. And because they're in a God system, you can't fight that. Now, I know people in America think differently. It's not true. I could show you anybody who felt they was justified even when a leader was wrong somehow in a godly position. Nothing ever good came of them. Because they don't understand, you are no longer fighting a wicked person in a godly position. You're fighting a system. And God has ordained that system, whether that man is wrong. And so David is no longer just running from Saul, he's running from God. He's saying, I can't fight that. I can't fight that and win. He knew it was futile. And he wasn't deceived by Saul's actions. He knew God's eternal government. That's why God could trust him to be a king and could, watch this, and could establish his kingdom forever. God told David, there will not fail a man to sit on the throne in your generation or in your lineage. He says, you know why? Because of his heart. God didn't just do that because he was there. It was his heart. He understood authority. He says, I'm going to establish your throne forever. David right now is in heaven with a crown on his head, and he has his own kingdom, and it's an everlasting kingdom, and it's connected to Jesus' kingdom. It's eternal stuff because of his understanding of power and rule here. So he wasn't just running from Saul. He was running from a godly system that an unclean, an evil king was using against him. And what did he do? I ain't going to do nothing. He waited till Saul died. If you notice, that's when God put him in power. If it would have been right to touch Saul, then you tell me, why did God only put him in power till after Saul died? Because God has a system and a cycle. You can't go over it. I don't care how anointed you are. I don't care how many giants you slay. I don't care how gifted you are. There's a system that is eternal. You can't come against it. You will fail and you will be destroyed. If you come against, you will be found fighting against God. You will lose. David understood this wisdom. It's the mystery of authority. Is it fair? No. Do it look right? No. It is God's system. It is his way. It's nothing you can do about it. You cannot change it. It has been established. Are y'all hearing this here? You must learn this. There are certain offices that God has put in place that whoever occupies it don't mean they're right. His system is, though. He ain't changing it for nobody, even someone in it that's evil. Now, he can move them, but he'll do it in his time. See that? Here it is. When Saul dies, David comes in power. Another thing, the young man that Saul says, I want you to put the sword through me and kill me. He was already on the battlefield dying, had been wounded. He says, now kill me. This young guy comes to David saying, oh, you know, your enemy Saul, look, I put the sword through him. This is what happened. He says, I was the one who killed him. He thought David was going to honor him because he killed a king who was pursuing him. And David killed him because of the reverence he had for authority. He says, this is not a good thing. Why are you rejoicing in front of me? Don't talk to me like that. David is a good prototype of Jesus.